Yeah, hello everyone. So in last session, we have seen how to separate our endpoints from server file. This part we have seen, and we have seen how to create different endpoints and how to test them. Now in today's session, let's understand how to access the data from the request body, how to access the data from the request body. Apart from this, we are going to see how to send data as a request body using Postman tool. So suppose if I have here Postman tool, so now this Postman tool will act like our client application. We are going to create HTTP server through Express. Now from our Postman, we are going to send a post request to this HTTP server. Apart from that, here we are going to create some endpoints. So let's assume that this is our post endpoint. So from our Postman, we will send the post request. We will send the post request to this post endpoint. We will send the post request. With this post request, we are going to send the data. So first we need to know how we can send the data through post request to our HTTP server, and at HTTP server, how to access the data from post request. This is what we have to learn. So for this, let's create our backend application. I will create here server.js file. I will open my terminal. Here I will install Express package. Once Express package is installed, here I am going to import my Express using require function. I will initialize that Express so that we can get that app object. And once we get app object, now using app.listen, I will create the server and I will start my server. Now here I'm adding console.log and saying server started. Now to create our endpoints, here I'm going to create a folder called routes. In that routes folder, I will create here something called auth route.js file. So I'm creating a file called auth route.js. Now here also I will import router function from our Express package. Now this router function I will call so that I can get that route object. And using this route object, I will create the post endpoint. I will say here new user and one route handler. request comma response. Right now, I will simply say that response dot send, and here I will add OK as a true, and result I will say working. So just I am passing one object as a response. In that object, I am passing two properties. So it's your wish, whatever properties you want to add in your object, you can add. And then this route object, I will export from here. Module.exports equals to our route object. Now this route object we have to configure at server file. So for that, first import auth route using require function. And then configure it using app.use. And here you have to pass /API/auth, comma, and our auth route. So all these things, whatever I have done till now, we have learned in our last session. That is the reason little speed I have gone. So whatever we have done, all these things we have learned in the last session. So now our endpoint is ready. Now we have to check whether this endpoint is working or not. So to send the request to this endpoint, now URL will be http://localhost:/API/auth/new user. This will be the URL using which we can send the request to this endpoint. So let's open our Postman tool. So I will close this part. I will clear all this. I will close all the tab. This is the interface you will find. Now I will click on this plus. I will select here post. I will add my URL. So before I send my request, my server should be in the running state. So here I will run my server. So now my server started. Now if I go back here, I will click on send. Now here see, we got that response. Okay, true. Result is working. So we are able to receive the response, means successfully we are able to send the request to this endpoint. Now first, let's try to understand how to send the data through Postman with our post request as a request body. How to send the data as a request body inside the Postman tool. How to send the data as a request body inside the Postman tool. So this is our Postman tool. And this is our URL. And on click of this button, we are sending the request. So now through this request, I want to send the data. So if you want to send any data from our Postman tool to our backend, then here you have some options: params, authorization, headers, body, like this. So here you have to select this body. Once you select this body, you will get some more options here, like none, form data, raw, binary, something. Select this raw. Once you select this raw, here one drop down button will come. And by default, it is text is selected. So you have to select this drop down button. You have to select JSON. And now here you can create your object and you can send the data. So how we are going to send the data from our client to server means in object format. So now here I can create like this one object. And in this object, I can add my data as a properties. But here you have to make sure that whenever you are creating a key, that key should be in the string format like this. So I'm adding name Sagar, colon ID, something like 101. Here gender, I will add something like male. Now this is the object we have created. Now this object I want to send from my Postman tool to this server, which is running in my backend. And here I want to receive that. Here I want to receive that object. Receive the data of request. So how to receive this data? So how to access this data? So how to access request data? Request body data. We call it as a request body data. So for that, we are going to use this request object. So we have to say request object dot body. So using request object, we can access the data. How to access? For that, we have to say request object dot body. We have to say request object dot body. Now it will return that data to us. So we can hold that data in one variable. So this is how you will be able to access the data at your server using request object. Now, where is this request object? This request object is present inside this route handler as a first parameter. So here we can write request dot body. When you say request dot body, it will return that data which is coming in the request. We can hold that data in one variable. And if I want, I can print that data in my terminal. Like this, I can print in my terminal. Now, to access the data through this request.body, we have to do one configuration. What is that configuration? Go to your server. Here, after initializing your Express, you have to use this app object. You have to call use function. And inside this use function, we have to use this Express. And through that Express, we have to call one function called JSON. So when you write this line, what your Express package will do, whenever data will come in a request body, that data, it will assign to this body property as a value which is present in the request object. So whenever we write this line, so by seeing this line, your Express package, what your Express will do, it will access the data from your request, which is coming from the client. That data, it will assign to this body property as a value, which is present in the request object. So if you don't write this line, if you don't do this configuration, then Express will not access the data from the request. And when Express is not accessing the data from request, and if you do request.body, it will return undefined. It will return undefined. See here. Now I am removing this line. I am not writing that line. And if I go back here and if I stop my server and restart it, now here you see in the terminal what it will print. Now I am sending the request. When I send the request, I got the response here. And if I check my terminal, now in my terminal, it is printing undefined. So I'm not able to access the data from the request. But if I add this line, now again, if I stop my server and restart it, And now if I send the request, and if I go back to my terminal, now see, here I have received that data. So whatever data I am sending from my postman, I am able to receive that data. Suppose if I change my data here, if I add here one more property like city, and if I say Pune, and now again if I send, now I should get here latest data. See, here I am getting city Pune. So to access the data from the request body, through this request.body property, it is mandatory for us to do this configuration. So by this statement, we are telling to the Express, whatever data is coming through my request body, that data you assign to body property of my request object. That is what the information we are giving. So this is how we can access the data from the request body in our Express.js. So now in any endpoint, you can access the data. But here you have to remember one thing. I think in last class, I have told that data through request body, we can send only for post and put request. So data through request body, we can send only from post and put request. So using get and delete, you cannot send the data. So using get and delete request, we cannot send the data. We cannot send the data as a request body. As a request body. So data through request body, we can send only from post and put request. Using get and delete request, we cannot send the data as a request body. It means if you have here client and if you have here server, and now if you are doing post request from client to server, then you can send the data as a request body. If you are doing the put request, then also you can send the data as a request body. But if you are sending get request, we cannot send the data as a request body. If you are sending delete request, we cannot send the data as a request body. So here I will just add these terms. Here I will say post. Here this one is put. This one is get. And this one is your delete. So through post and put, we can send the request data. So through request body, we can send the data. But using get and delete, it's not possible. Then how to send the data using get request and delete request? For that, we are going to use path params or query params. So using path params and query params, we can send the data through get and delete request. So if you want to send any data as a path params or query params, then we can send that data through get and delete request. So now we have to learn how to send the data as a path params. How to send data as a path params. So to send the data as a path params, first we have to create our get endpoint. So here I will create get endpoint. I will say route dot get. And here I will say get users and one callback function. And here I will add request, comma, response. Now here, if this endpoint is going to receive any data as a path params, then that path params we have to configure here. So this is our route path. After this route path, we have to configure our path params. How to configure? For that, you have to just add here slash. Then you have to start with colon. And then you have to define here some reference. Whatever reference you want, you can define. I am defining one reference called ID. So after your route path, you have to add slash, you have to add colon, and you have to add here ID. So this indicates that this endpoint will receive the data as a path params. So whenever a client is sending a request to this endpoint, now client will send the data as a path params. And how to access that data? To access that data, we have to use this request object dot, you have to call here params dot, you have to use this reference, whatever reference you have defined. So here ID. Now it will return that data. Const data. Now if I want, I can print that data in my terminal. This is how we receive the data as a path params. Path params. Now here I will send one response back to the client by saying that path params working. Now to send the request to this endpoint, now URL will be something like this. So here slash get hyphen users and then slash, you have to pass here data. So till here get users, and after get users, you have to pass the data. So I can copy this URL. I can save my file. I can stop my server. I can restart. I will go to the Postman. I will open new tab. Anyways, it is get. I will add my URL. Now here I have to pass some data. So I'm just passing here 101. You can pass anything as your data. I'm passing 101. Now I will send the request. If I send the request, I got here response as a path params working. Let's see in our terminal whether it is 101 is printing or not. So if I go and if I see here, I got 101. So now in our URL, this is called path param. This is one path param. Like this, you can pass any number of path params. Suppose if I want to pass one more path params, here again you have to configure that. So again, you have to add here slash, again start with colon and give some reference name. I'm adding here gender. Now I am configuring two path params. So whenever you are sending the request to this endpoint, you have to send two path params. So I will go back here. So I will stop my server, restart it. But before that, let me access here one more path params. How to access? Const gender, I will say, equals to request dot params dot this reference name. This reference is gender. Here we have to say gender. Now I will print here. So here I will say ID. So here I will print ID, comma, gender. Now go back and run your server. Now here, after 101, again you have to add slash and you have to pass your data. I am saying mail. Now if I click on send, Now here I got response as a path param working. And if I check my terminal, here I got 101 male. Now if I change the data, if I make it 105 and here if I make it female, and if I send request, if I go back here and check, I got here 105 and female. So when you are using get or delete endpoint, and if you want to send the data from client to server, then one of the way is like this, you can define path params. Another way is you can define using query params. You can use query params. So how to send the data as a path params? Data is sent in the URL. Data is sent in the URL. How data is sent in the URL? So I can copy this and I can paste here. Now here, this is your path params. And this one is path params. How to access path params at server? How to access path params at server? So for that, using request dot params dot your reference name. Your reference. So using request dot params dot reference, we can access path params. So example, I will add this one. I will take this screenshot and I will paste here. This is how you can pass the data. Now, how to pass as a query params? So for that also we required get endpoint. So here I will create get endpoint. One more. I will say route dot get. And here I will say query params. So first define the route path. And then one route handler. And here it should be request comma response. Now here, how to access query params. So to access query params, you have to use request object dot, you have to say query dot, here you have to use the reference names. And this reference name will come from the client. So I'm just using here something like category. So it will return us some value. So we can hold that in one variable. I will say category name. Like this, I will use one more const price equals to request dot query dot price. So now this reference names, this we can get from the URL. How to get, I will tell you. So here I will say console.log of category name dot price. Response.send, I will say query params. Now see how to access query params. Request dot query dot some reference name. Request dot query dot some reference name. And for path params, request dot params dot ID, nothing but reference name. Request dot params dot gender. So when we are accessing the data as a path params, in our route path, we have to configure those references. But when we are getting the data as a query params, no need to configure anything here. In URL only, we will configure these references. So how to send the data means, I will copy this URL. I will add here. Now here it should be slash query params. After this path we are adding in our URL, then we have to add question mark. After question mark, here what is the reference we are taking? Category. So that category we have to add. Equals to, here client will add some value. This is one query param. So here whatever key you are using to access, that key we have to pass. We are using one more key, that is price, nothing but one more query parent. So here first we have to add that ampersand and then price equals to value. Now this is the URL we have to give to the client. So after our route path, we have to add question mark and then we have to add our query params in key value pair. And query params will separate with ampersand, Now you can copy this URL. I can go to my Postman. So I'm selecting get only, I'm adding here. Now here, instead of value, I have to pass some value. I am passing here electronics. And price, I am passing here 5,000. Now, before I send the request, I have to stop my server and restart it. Now let me see whether I am printing the values or not. Yes, I am printing the values. Let's see whether we will get that values in our terminal or not. The moment I send, I got here response as a query params. Now if I check my terminal, now see, I received here electronics and 5,000. Now if I change that data, suppose here if I change from electronics to men's, and here if I make it 9,000, and if I just send, now see, here again I got the terminal. So in Postman, directly you can add like this URL, or else you can do one more thing. No need to add query params here. You can remove this query params here. So just add the URL. Don't add that question mark. Now here you have params option, which is by default selected. Now here you configure your query params. I can say category, and here I will add the value like kids. I will add here one more price, and here I am adding the value something like 5,000. Now see, the moment I add here, now this data is automatically added in my URL. So if you want manually, you can directly add in the URL, or else you can select here params and you can configure your query params. Still, if I click on send, now here I will get kids and I got 5,000. So this is how we can receive the data. How to access data. Here I will say how to access data as a query params. So for this, what we need to do? So using request dot query dot your reference name, your reference, we can access query params. So we use query params if you are using the request like get, delete, and put. Post also we can use. So using all this, get, delete, put, post, we can send the data through query params, or we can send the data through path params. But if you want to send the data through request body, then only post and put will work. Get and delete. Using get and delete, we cannot send the data as a request body. But using put and post, we can send the data as a request body. And using all these four, we can send the data as a path params, or we can send as a query params also. So the problem with path params and query params is data is visible to the users because we send the data as a in the URL. So when you are sending the data in the URL, that data will be visible to the end users. But if you are sending the data as a request body, then that data is not visible to the users. So the data in request body is always safe. So this is how we are going to use all this, guys. So one information I wanted to share. Soon I am going to release videos on MongoDB. So I am creating videos on MongoDB. So I am just creating those videos for YouTube purpose. Means every video will be around 5 to 10 minutes. So video duration will be around 5 to 10 minutes. So I have created till now around 13 videos. So soon those videos I am going to release on YouTube. Once I release those videos on YouTube, that link I will share in our WhatsApp group. So what you guys have to do, whenever you guys get the free time, you have to watch those videos. You have to learn this MongoDB part through these videos now. So on Saturday, Sunday, or any day, if I am not able to take the session, then you can utilize your time to watch and practice those concepts which I am teaching in these videos. So like this, nearly 50 or 60 videos I will be sharing. So I will be creating those videos and I will be sharing those videos with you guys. So what for our project, whatever is required, initially I will share that. Later on, I am going to increase that playlist. So whenever I share that playlist, so it will take time for me to edit, like to upload all those things on the YouTube and do certain XYZ things. And once all those are done, then I will only share those videos in your WhatsApp group link. So in WhatsApp group, I will share, plus in our Node.js community channel also I will share. So whenever you guys get time, just watch those videos. So I am just creating one video for one concept. So once you understand about this MongoDB, then we are going to see how we can use our Express and how we can connect with the MongoDB database. So that part will become easy for us. So in today's session, what we have learned, we have just learned how to access the data through request body, through path params and query params. How to access the data at server using, or I can say not using, as request body, path params, and as a query params. So if you want to send any data from client as a request body, then we can send that data only with post and put request. So here post and put request will work. But if you want to send any data as a path params or query params, for that we can use any type of request. So here all the request will work. So here get will work, delete will work, put will work, and post will also work. So now I just want you guys to practice. I have shown you here only with get. I want you guys to practice with delete also. Here I have shown you only with post. I want you guys to work with put also. So in that way, you guys have to practice this part. Now in tomorrow's session, what we will do, we have created our sign up form, right? In React, we have created our sign up component. Now from that sign up component, we will try to send the data to our Express application. Nothing but Node and Express application. So we will see from our React.js using our Axios package, how we can send the data from client, nothing but from front end to our backend. So we know how to access the data. So whether you are receiving the request through Postman, through browser, through any client application, the process at server is same. This is how we use. This is how we use. But the way of passing the data from browser or from Postman or from client application will vary. So in Postman, we have seen how to send the data as a query params, path params, or request body. Now we will see how we can send the data from our React application using Axios library. So I will show you all that: get, post, put, delete. And we will see how we can access that data here. And once you know MongoDB part, then we will see how we can store this data in our database. So like this, step by step, things will be implemented. Okay, so today I will stop this session here. I just want you guys to practice this part so that freshly we can start this part. And make sure you are revising our sign up component. Whatever we have done in the sign up component, just revise that part and come to the session so that it will be easy for you to understand what I will try to explain in tomorrow's session. And make sure you are revising this Axios session video. I think that video number 8 or something it was. So just go through that video once, revise that part and come to the session. And if you observed your mail, if you checked your mail, I have updated Flex video. So 2 videos I have updated on Flex concept. So I just want you guys to go through those videos also. Soon I will update grid concept also. So maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow, I will update that grid concept videos also. Okay, so from here, now things will be little more burdened for you. So much work will be allocated to you, which you guys have to finish it. Yeah, so that's all guys for today's session. Now remaining things we will discuss in tomorrow's session at same time.